Just trying to survive and learn to love along the way. By Foreplay on AO3. Episode 12, Chapter 12 of Sleep and Recovery. Shouta wakes up again a few hours later to the light touch on his shoulder and blinks barely at his husband. Everything alright, Sho? I got worried when you didn't come back to bed. Shouta didn't answer him, just frowned down to where Izuku is, and is surprised to find out how much he moves in his sleep. He has moved from being flat on his back to curled up on his side, facing the back of the couch. His head is pillowed on Shota's thigh, and he's got his arms wrapped around his middle. Shouta can feel where his hands are fisted at the back of his shirt. He smiles a little at the sight, wishing he could capture the moment. Hizashi, ever the mind reader, speaks up again. I already took about 1,000,000 pictures. Now, what's going on? He had a nightmare and I found him on the floor. Some of his stitches popped, and it looks like he may be getting an infection. I plan on taking him to Recovery Girl before class. Poor kid. You should get ready soon if you want to have enough time for her. You know how much she likes to talk. Hizashi shoots him a wink, and stands, heading to their room. Shouta somehow manages to extract himself from the kid without waking him, and changes quickly into his hero costume before downing a mug of coffee. He stops by Izuku's room to grab his sweater and backpack before running to the living room where Izuku is still curled up. It takes a few tries to wake him, but soon his eyes are sluggishly opening, and he pushes himself back into a seated position. Put this on. We're heading out a bit early today. What about my uniform? The sentence is barely cohesive, and Hizashi slightly laughs from where he's standing behind the couch. Don't worry about it, kid. It's not worth it today. Izuku manages to get the sweats over his head and tries to grab the matching yellow backpack, but Hizashi grabs it before he can. He lets out a little whine, but follows him out of the door into the car without a word. He nearly falls asleep on the way to UA, and they don't even make it through the parking lot before Shouta loses his patience. He walks back to the problem child and turns around in front of him before crouching down. Get on. But Shouta, I can walk. We won't make it inside by lunchtime if I let you walk. Izuku sputters again, but still wraps his arms around his neck and climbs onto his back. Shouta stands and tucks his arms under the kid's legs, not nearly as off balance as he thought he would be at the extra weight. Jeez, kid, you're way too light. It's not my fault. It's said so quietly that Shouta almost doesn't hear it. He can feel Izuku nuzzling his warm face into the back of his neck as they walk. And he feels every puff of air that leaves the kid's mouth. He can see Hizashi laughing out the corner of his eyes, and his head turns just in time to catch him taking another picture. They pass by far too many heroes on their journey, and he knows the entire staff will hear about this by the end of class start. It doesn't take long to reach the infirmary carrying Izuku, and Recovery Girl simply sighs when she catches a sight of them, and gestures towards the nearest bed. Shouta is careful as he puts the problem child down, and Izuku releases the death grip he had around his neck. He turns around and pulls the right sleeve of Izuku's sweater before speaking. I think his arm's getting infected. He woke up with a fever last night. He carefully doesn't mention the nightmare, and Izuku gives him a grateful look. Recovery Girl doesn't say anything, just pushes him aside and unravels the bandage. It most certainly is. These stitches were done poorly. They'll let anyone with a healing quirk be a doctor nowadays. Looks like you at least did a good job cleaning it. She cleans his arm again before rewrapping it and turning to her desk to pull out some pills and hands them to Izuku. These should help with the fever. They may make him more tired though, so I hope you're fine with him passing out in your class, Shouta. Of course. There's one other thing we wanted to talk to you about. We believe he's got undiagnosed selective mutism. He has trouble speaking under certain circumstances, and described it as his throat locking up and preventing him from talking. Well, it sounds like you're right, Shouta. I'll add that to his file. I suggest you let him rest in the teacher's lounge for the remainder of the time before class begins. She walks into her office and closes the door, dismissing them. Well, Hizashi, I think it's your turn. My turn to what? His husband looks a little scared at that. Shouta just gestures at the problem child. You get to carry him this time. Hizashi doesn't even answer, just hands Shouta his speaker to free up his neck, and walks over to the bed to get the kid out from back in the same fashion that Shouta did earlier. They walk in silence for a few moments, until Izuku decides to speak up, voice muffled by Hisashi's jacket. Hey, Sashi. He sounds so tired, and it's surprising he hasn't fallen back asleep yet. Yeah, kid. What's this chain round your neck? Notice Shota's one too. His words are slightly slurred, but they both get the point. Shota's almost surprised the kid even noticed them. Almost. Why don't you pull it out and see? Hizashi got the hint of a smile on his face, eager to see Izuku's reaction. He doesn't know why. The kid already knows they're married. Izuku tugs the chain eagerly, pulling the chain out from where it was tucked under Sashi's shirt. Izuku smiles at the ring he finds. Wedding ring. Shouta bets the kid knew already. Izuku sounds more awake now, beginning more comprehensive with his interest. Hizashi nods in place of replying. Why don't you wear it on your hand? We don't want to risk breaking them, and it's nice to have something for ourselves that the world doesn't know about. Hizashi is smiling as he says this, and Izuku nods his reply, tucking his face closer to Hisashi's neck. It's cute, and Shouta knows that he'll be a dead man if he doesn't capture this moment. So he does. Hizashi is obsessed with pictures. They don't see a single person until they enter the teacher's lounge. The only other person in there is Ectoplasm, grumbling about some math problem. He doesn't even look up as they enter, just mutters a greeting and refocuses on his work. Shouta shrinks down onto one of the couches, and Hizashi crouches in front of it, intent on putting Izuku beside him. He manages to get him on the couch, and makes to stand up, but the kid's arms are locked around his neck. Shouta huffs a laugh before leaning forward to help his husband. He stands when he's freed, and Izuku immediately curls towards the next source of body heat, which happens to be Shouta. He glances down at the kid and finds him in almost the same position they woke up in this morning. Wow, Sashi, I think he's almost as clingy as you when you sleep. Hey, I don't cling. Shouta just raises his brow, and Hizashi blushes before looking away. 20 minutes later finds Shouta working through his marking once again, one hand settled in Izuku's curls. A knock on the door makes him look up, but Sashi is already moving from his place on Izuku's other side to go and answer it. A mumbled conversation later, and Hizashi is moving back into the teacher's lounge, heading towards his desk. He's accompanied by a set of lighter footprints that freeze when they pass in front of the couch. Yes, Shinsou, did you need something from me? No. Shouta looks up at the hesitant in his voice, and finds the kid staring at Izuku's, brow creasing in concern. He raises a brow, daring Shinsou to say something. He doesn't even look at Shouta, instead keeping his eyes on his kid. He's just like a cat. Shouta fixes a glare on Shinsou, and he flinches, backing up a few paces. It looks like he wants to say something else, but before he can, Sashi returns to his side with papers clutched in hand. Here's your missing work, listener. Better get a move on. It's due in a few hours. Shinsou gets a panicked look on his face, and scurries out of the teacher's lounge, barely sparing a glance behind him. Shouta wants to leave for class a few minutes earlier than usual, so he starts waking Izuku up a few minutes after Shinsou leaves. It's not all that hard, and once he realizes the position he's in, he jolts up and away from him, bashing right into Hizashi, whose back's in his place on the couch. Izuku stammers out a quiet apology, face a deep crimson. Shouta just smirks, while Hizashi laughs at the kid's embarrassment. He ends up practically dragging Izuku behind him, on the shriek to the classroom. He lightly pushes him into the room ahead of him, and heads for his own desk, wanting to catch a quick nap before class starts, and he has to deal with little demons all day. He makes sure Izuku gets to his desk before closing his eyes, settling down in his sleeping bag. This is so cute. I love this chapter. This chapter is so nice. This chapter is, a little lighthearted. It is definitely more lighthearted. I will say that. It is nice. I like this chapter. I'm in love. Okay. This chapter was nice. We see a little bit of, obviously, them taking care of Izuku. I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of Shinsou, since Shinsou did mention cats, and Shinsou does like cats. Therefore, this could then translate into Shinsou starting to see Izuku as more than just a classmate, at the very least friends, and then that could, evolve into something else. It does say slow burn, so I feel like it's going to start with friends. And let's say slow burn in the sense where it's fast burn in feelings, but slow burn in getting in the relationship. So they develop feelings quite fast. It just takes a while for them to actually get together. And then there's slow burn pace and slow burn timeline. So, for example, technically speaking, mine is both pace and timeline. Because, Izuku and Hizashi, what the fuck? Izuku and Shinsou don't get together till later down in the thing. Halfway through, you still get to see them together. Don't worry, I'm not evil. And technically speaking, pacing-wise, even though it's only been a couple chapters for you guys, like a good 20, 40 chapters. I don't know how many chapters, I forget when they get together. But even though it's been a couple chapters, right? They've technically known each other for, I think, 3 years at the least. So in that case, if I would have started with them getting together right away, technically, yes, it is fast-paced, but it's also slow-paced. Fast-paced, it's fast burn, but it's also slow burn in the sense of, okay, plot-wise and pacing-wise, it's fast. It happens kind of fast throughout the story. But timeline-wise for the story, it is slow burn, because they took a while till they, developed feelings and then got together. Sorry, I'm going insane. Anyways, as always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.